Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Wesley Sykes. I'm the new managing editor of Coach and Athletic Director magazine, and today's webinar is brought to us by Sports Solution LLC. Charles Norman II will be our speaker today, and he is the founder of Sports Solutions and developed AthleticSOS, its first product during the Great Recession of 2008. He created this college search software for athletes as a show of gratitude towards his daughter's basketball coach who helped his daughter in securing an athletic scholarship opportunity. Realizing how vulnerable high school athletic department budgets were during times of financial stress, he vowed to create a more robust solution to help them become, quote, crisis and recession proof. AthleticSOS is the result of that effort. Charles retired from public service as a senior systems analyst in 2018 after 36 years in the building and safety and city planning departments of the city of Los Angeles to run Sports Solutions LLC full-time. The company has 2 additional product releases planned in the near future. And just a couple of housekeeping notes before we move on. After Charles has completed the presentation portion, we'll open it up to questions to the floor. And this webinar will be available on demand as well very soon. Look out for an email that will detail how to access that recording in the near future. Feel free to utilize the text box feature in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen to submit any questions you have while Charles is speaking. If we cannot get to all of those questions, he will reach out to you after the webinar with your answers. So without further ado, Charles, the floor is yours, my friend.
All right, thank you, Wesley. I appreciate the introduction. Hello, everyone. I really appreciate you guys taking time out, especially if you're an administrator or a coach or an athletic director for a high school. For the people that are actually using our software, for the high schools that are using those software right now, I know this is the most uncertain time probably in a decade for you guys, not only with the idea of the budget cuts that may be coming down the line, but even if you're going to have a season. So I really appreciate you guys taking time out. A little background on me. I did do the 36 years. We started the company in 2015. I didn't retire from the city until 2018. And I didn't talk about this with Coach and AD magazine, but in 2018, they named us one of the top 10 innovation companies. And all of a sudden, we had this slow start from 2015 to 2018. And then all of a sudden everything exploded for us. So I really appreciate them for that purpose. And so what happened once that opened up for us, we started getting calls, not necessarily from high schools. You guys are kind of a closed loop there, so that's still a slow march for us. We have about 60 schools under our belt right now, but there's 26,000 high schools that have high school athletes participating on their campuses, so we want to get all of them we can. But what we did get was a lot of private companies, private enterprises, nonprofits, sports associations, travel club programs. And so what I wanted to do in this this webinar, is to let you guys know what's going on around you, because sometimes you get closed in with what you're doing in your day-to-day activities, that you don't see some of the challenges and the competitors that are coming after your market share that you guys own right now. And so that's one. And so my last 10 years with the city, one of my quiet things I had to do was to save my profession from getting outsourced and for having contractors come in and replace us. So the strategy that I'm going to show you guys at the end of this, and along with the software that we developed specifically for you guys, I think will make the difference for you guys. It makes you just robust, and so you can overcome any kind of crisis or recessions in the future. So in this webinar, I'm going to discuss how high school athletic departments are kind of losing status on the high school campus, and maybe more importantly, that you're losing market share for your student athletes to traditional and non-traditional competitors. And then I'm going to do a demonstration of our AthleticSOS software. So I want to walk you through exactly how it works, and it's the first software ever designed specifically for high school athletic departments, and that's a really important part of this. And then finally, I'm going to give you a counterintuitive strategy that I use from my position at the city to kind of beat back people that were trying to compete with us or trying to take our places on site. And by tying that together with the software, I think it can make it for a really robust strategy for you moving forward. So the first thing is I can't emphasize enough the crucial high school athletics are to sustaining access and opportunities for high school age athletes regardless of their economic status or their gender. You guys are it. You're the only ones doing it. Out of everyone we work with, you guys are the only ones that have an open policy, that you're inclusive. So that's really important. Now, we've been fortunate to work with some impressive entrepreneurs, private businesses, and organizations, and they're doing some amazing things in the youth sports arena, but none of them can touch you guys when it comes to a combination of inclusiveness, the number of sports offered, and the quality of the experience and the resources you guys can offer to the student athletes and their families. And sometimes when you're part of a group or occupational organization, you don't get a lot of positive feedback because, hey, that's your job, is what you're supposed to be doing. So just let me say on behalf of all the athletes, 13 to 17-year age group, you guys are doing a great job, and I just want to say thank you for that. And so that's why I think it's really important that you guys don't get complacent and that you continually move forward and bring more resources instead of less resources when there's a time of crisis. And so whenever there's a crisis, there's a power grab. And this one is interesting to me because this was a quote from a wealthy property director. I was on a committee when I was working at my last job, and someone came in and told us that committee was going to be disbanded because of the 2008 financial crisis. And he uttered this out, and he was saying this is time to increase our efforts, not disband the committee. And he was really adamant about it. And so I just like to keep that in the back of my head. And so for you guys, I just did a little research for high school athletics as we were getting the software ramped up. And you can show every time there was a recession that as a group, it seems like the athletic directors and coaches haven't recognized this yet, that there's always a power grab. And you guys don't necessarily see it because you're trying to balance out what's about to happen to you and you're trying to protect yourself, but you're not seeing that somebody's trying to take over what you were already doing. So I want to kind of get that out. And it's not a criticism, it's just an observation. And obviously I'm an outsider. I've never been an administrator, I've never been an athletic director, and I've never been a high school coach. But this is what I see happening with the software, and we're talking around to people around you guys. So approximately every 10 years, like clockwork, there's a financial crisis, and high school athletic departments never seem quite prepared for what's about to happen. And I've attended multiple national athletic director conferences and numerous coaches conferences to show our software over the past 6 years. And while there's discussions on budgeting, I've never seen a seminar or a panel discussion on crisis and recession strategies. So every time there's a financial crisis, it becomes a process of you sort of accept it's going to happen, you retrench a little bit, you reduce the offerings you have on campus, and you sort of defend your space. And then the hope is after a couple of years, things kind of clear up, those cuts get put back, and you kind of make your way back, and then another one happens. And it's just rinse and repeat every 8 to 10 years. So, I want to talk about your traditional competitors. These are the guys that you are very aware of. I spoke about challenges and competitors a little bit earlier. And so for public schools, by far they have the highest number of athletes, and they have the biggest target on their backs. Everybody wants what they have. They've got the infrastructure in place, they've got the support system, they've got the tax dollars, and so everyone's after what you guys have. So you guys really do have the target on your back. Now I will say for private schools, we work with a lot of private schools. In fact, they were the first ones to take on our software. They really stepped up from 2000 to 2000 problem, and all the way up until 2008, they really took off and started adding sports and athletics in a big way, so much so that now the public schools are complaining about the unfair advantage the private schools have in attracting the top-tier athletes. And they're starting to dominate in a lot of the championships. If you look state after state after state, district after district, it's the private schools that are winning the championships. And then you have your charter and your magnet schools. Now, right now, they haven't pushed as hard, but we're working with 2 of them right now that want to add esports because they understand if you get your sports program together, more kids want to come and be a part of what you're doing. And so they haven't made a big push, but they are waiting for any kind of voucher system to come in from any state or federal opportunity for that, and then they're going to go all in. So something else to consider and be aware of. Now, the prep schools we're working with, mostly for the athletes, they're sort of a bridge program between high school and 4-year colleges for a lot of the athletes. It allows them to mature emotionally, athletically and academically before they move on. But what they're doing during this crisis is they're starting to talk about starting charter schools on their campuses for junior high and high school kids. And so they are trying to make the push kind of like private schools did in the past. Now, the home schools, they're just a little bit, they don't have as much connectivity or cohesiveness, so they can't do a lot. But in the area of volleyball and for basketball, they do have some national organizations and games and teams and combines and things. So they are looking in that area, but they're just not quite right there. So they're not a big challenge right now. So really it's the public schools and the private schools that are sort of going to battle right now. But the problem with all of this is it's a zero-sum game. There's a finite number of athletes that are available, and if one area takes away from the other area fights back, and so it's this futile Game of Thrones, really, if you look at it, where they're fighting against each other. And the problem with this is there's people outside that are the ones that are really the bigger challenge. And so I wanted to go over that because we see this all the time. So in this area, you've got the private equity people, and for the most part, they're just interested in your infrastructure. All they see are these fields and gyms that are underutilized, and what they're doing now is, and I've been able to talk to them since March, they want to go in and throw a lot of dollars to these school districts that are really stressing out and really struggling, and they basically want to come in and say, listen, let us pay you, we'll take over your fields and your gyms and everything, and we'll lease back the time that you need, and we'll lease back to you guys at a great price, and you can take that off your book. We'll have the upkeep. You don't have to worry about reseeding the fields. You don't have to worry about the gyms, roofing, all that stuff. We'll take care of it for you, but we get to use your resources any way we want to when they're not in use by you guys. So that's what they want. You have your sports industry entrepreneurs, and it's probably for most of you guys here, I don't know how many of you guys are on the line, but how many of you guys have had the NFHS come to you guys and talk about installing the Pixel cameras and doing live streaming of your events, and then you'll do it on their network. And so those are the kind of insider areas that they're coming in, and they're going to come at you guys too. Again, these are your resources you own right now, so we want you to hold on to those resources. It's a great idea, but you want to make sure you get the best deal out of it if that's what you want to go towards. So it's not a sign of weakness. You're coming at it from a sign of strength. But there's a lot of other people like them. There's tons of associations. We're working with the USA Triathlon. We're working with the Tennis Association. So all these associations, they want new members. And so they're there, and they're trying to look for a way to get in on what you guys already have also. You got your education reform advocates. Now, these people really believe that schools should be for educational purposes only, and that sports are a waste of financial resources. Now, they have a lot of influence because a lot of them are inside the school administration, but they don't have a lot of money and they don't have a lot of overall support. So they are there, though, so you guys need to be aware of them. And then you've got your millionaire, billionaire ideologues. I like hanging out with them. It's great to be around them, but they have some radical ideas on education in general, everything from something as simple as online schooling for kids to, I had one group that wanted to come in and take high school and take it and separate and make different paths for people, for kids that want to go to technical background, kids that want to go to college, and they want to do it all on one campus, and they were going to pay for everything. They're not necessarily against high school sports, but they would be really okay with outsourcing it. It wouldn't bother them even a little bit. And then you've got your nonprofits, and basically they want part of the school's budget. They want to help the overachieving kids, and they want to come in and get a piece of that budget, and a lot of that budget will come out of probably the athletic department budget. So these are the kind of people you guys aren't paying attention to because of the competitors that you have just on the school side. But these are the people that are kind of come after you. And I could do this over and over again. I know we only have a short time for this webinar, so I don't want to go too deep into that, but I'll be more than willing to answer questions after if you have them. But after working with all these groups and working with the high schools, one of the things I'm finding is they're all coming after you in one particular way, and I think it's really dangerous if you guys aren't aware of it. And that is they want to separate physical education, which is a required subject for most high school districts, from the competitive sports, which is not technically required or mandated. And sure, that now the lines are kind of blurred because of the athletic department is there. But imagine if they could separate in the eyes of politicians or school officials or your school boards. They might be able to gain a foothold that they may never have to relinquish. But it's something we really, really want to think about, that separation from physical education and competitive sports. You know, when I was putting it together, it felt like a bunch of bullet points. Now it sounds a little doomsday-ish. But so from now, I'm going to move into solutions, and I promise everything from here is positive. Okay, so before 2008, I knew nothing I just talked to you guys about. And the only thing I knew about high school sports was that both of my kids were participating in them, and that I kept being asked for more money because they needed more money because of the budget cuts they took in 2008. And it was mandatory all of a sudden to be part of fundraising. And so, on my part. So the financial crisis was in full swing. I had just been furloughed at my job. My daughter had just finished her sophomore season and was showing promise that she could possibly earn an athletic scholarship opportunity for basketball. And I was told that I would need to have her play travel and club basketball just to be considered as a real prospect. And so she was offered, fortunately she was offered a position on a number of teams, but the average cost was about $3,000. And I would have to go with her, so I had some more money just for my travel because that's still my daughter. So after a lot of anguish, I talked to her high school coach for advice. And what happened next kind of completely changed our lives. And to this day, I can't thank our coach, Ken Gutman, enough for what he did for us. So first, he put together a game plan to make my daughters known to college coaches across the country. And this is roughly what the plan that I'm going to show you that created AthleticSOS. And I'm going to show you that in just a minute. And then I received a call from my daughter's guidance counselor to discuss the plan to ensure that my daughter was qualified academically to be accepted should one of the colleges be interested in recruiting her. And when I arrived at the meeting, an English teacher on campus that taught the on-campus SAT prep study group was there. And together we put together a plan of action. And everything was just so professional and so proactive. Frankly, I was amazed. I didn't even know all this was even possible. And in the end, it all paid off. My daughter received a full ride scholarship offer. She had a great college career, and she graduated on time. And so this power that you guys have, this is what I want to unleash for every single high school student athlete on campus. Whether or not they're varsity and trying to get an athletic scholarship, or they're just playing for fun, or they never, get past the freshman team. I still want them all to have that power that you guys have on campus to make their lives and help them move forward. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to switch over, if I do this right, and get us to where I can show you guys the AthleticSOS software and do a quick demo, and then I'll come back and finish up with the strategy. Okay, so this is our website, athleticsos.com. I want to bring you here so that if you want to go in afterwards, there are demos available here. You can kind of see a short version of what I'm about to show you the full version of. And so what I want you guys to do right now is I want you to take off your athletic director, your administrator, your coach's hat, and I want you to put on your parent's hat. And you're a parent, and you're at home, and you have this software available to you, and no one is around you, and you can use this any way you want to use it. And so this is what we call our parents portal for AthleticSOS. And on this side, when you register, when the parent registers, they're going to put all this information in themselves. And they're going to put a GPA, SAT, plan major, and all of this information over here. And then if they have a social media account or any film or video or newspaper clippings, they can add all of that in here. All the sports they play, they can add this information in here. Any upcoming events that are coming up, they can add all of that in here. And you're creating a profile for this player for themselves, and they're doing this work on their own. You don't have to do it as a coach or administrator at the school. But here's where the real action takes place. So they want to start looking at schools. The first thing we want to do is find out about their academic situation. And so they can edit this. So you have your ninth grader comes in, and they don't have all of this information yet. They can put in some scores here that they want to try to come in and meet with. And this is fantastic. What we found with this area, that the kids that haven't taken their SAT or ACT yet, they can find out what schools they're going to qualify for later on by changing these scores around. It gives them a lot of incentive. Then they move on to next. And then we have down here every single sport, there's an opportunity at the collegiate level for an athletic scholarship. And so in this case, I'm going to choose basketball. And then they can pick a region, and we show them what states are included in the regions over here, or they can pick up to 5 states. So I'm on the West Coast doing this, but say I wanted my kids to go back east. They have a reason, they want to do that. I have family back there. And then they're going to pick a level they think they can participate. So we have every single level, there's an opportunity. So NCAA, you have Division 1, 2, and 3. You have the NAIA, and even junior colleges. Now the others, those are usually a lot of Christian schools that are affiliated with one of these other areas. But let's say this kid is a D2 level kid. So you guys had that conversation on campus, and you think they're a D2 kid, and that's where you would feel comfortable using your credibility on their behalf. But that's how this is working. You want the school, the coaches, and the parents and the student athlete to work together. And then they hit search, and our algorithm takes over. And just that quickly, they've gotten back now 54 schools in the Northeast that they qualify for academically. And these are in alphabetical order. And then over here, there's a decision list here, a decision assist. And so if they see blue over here, it means academically they're in the top 25 percentile of the kids that were accepted to that school the previous year. And we know they have a basketball program, but academically you qualify to go there. You're in the top 25 percentile, which is great. If you see green, you're in the 50 to 75 percentile, so that means you're in the middle. If you saw yellow, you would be in the bottom 25 percentile. And then this is really new the last couple of years. See, this looks clear or white to you guys. But basically, those are the colleges that don't use the ACT and SAT as a criteria for getting into that college, which is really great for the kids that struggle with those tests to know that that's even available. And so what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to pick, just pick one of these. I'm going to pick Bloomsburg University of Pennsylvania. The other thing we're finding out from this is parents and kids have never heard of 90% of these schools once they come out of the Division I level schools. So then they find out now we've got all these opportunities. And if they hit details, I'm going to give them even more information about this school. Right? Is it a public or private school? What the cost to go to the school is, what the application fee is, where your score puts you. So if there was a yellow or green there, what do I need to get to blue? Or, you know, you're an athlete, maybe you don't have to get to blue if that coach is interested in you. We give contact information for the coach, but we tell them don't use this. The way our system works, we want to work with our high school coach and not go off on our own. So, but you do have the information. And then you don't know anything else about this school except for the fact that you qualified for it. So we have a link to the school. Here's a URL to the school. We have a link to the athletic homepage, and we did that over time because we want to make sure these kids go to a school. If you're going to go play sports there, you want to make sure they have a robust athletic program before you commit to them. So you want to go and look at that. And then finally, you have a link to the actual sports homepage. So this is the men's basketball team for this particular college. And again, we're trying to teach these kids to do their own homework. They should be looking at the roster. They should look at the bios for all of those kids there. Do I fit this school? What year is that position coming out? What size are those kids? Do I fit this particular place? And if I like the school, I save it. And now it's in my list of schools. And they can do this all day, all over the country. They don't need you to do anything on their behalf. And so this is great, but as coaches, as the athletic administrators, we know 95% of the kids, and probably even a bigger percentage, are never going to play at the collegiate level. And I mentioned earlier, we want every single student athlete to be able to use our system. So what do those kids do? They come in here and they click this button, and I just took the sports out of the equation. And so we do the same thing, and now I'm on the West Coast, and they don't want to stay closer to home. And then I hit the same thing, so I hit search, and it took a little bit longer, but now you see there's 1,195 entries here. And so what I have here, or I can sort in this field, I have four-year colleges, I have community college, junior colleges, and I have trade schools in here. Again, our goal is not to leave anyone behind, and this is what we've learned through the years as we've had this software available. We get feedback, and we listen to that feedback. And so in this case, I would come in and say, maybe I'm interested in this Arizona Christian University, and I add that to my academic. We still give you a link to the school so you can go and check on your majors. And just in case, we give you the athletic homepage, but we took away the sport page because we don't have that anymore. And just in case they might want to try out for the team and see what happens. And then if they like that school, they save it, and that goes to their academic list. And so this kid is building a list of schools over and over. Now, right now we have it set for 10 schools at a time, but we could always make that bigger. But after 10, I think it's time for them to start moving forward on some of those schools. And you can see that list is starting to grow over here. Now, everything I just showed you, we have videos for them. So we want them to be self-sufficient. They have to keep coming back to the high school for information on how to use the system. So if they click on media here, here's the videos for every single thing I just had you do: navigating the portal, understanding red flags because we do show red flags if their GPA is not high enough or their SAT and ACT scores and their GPA don't match up. We let them know something's wrong here. You need to take a look at it. Also, we give them resources. These are the eligibility centers. You'd be surprised how many parents don't even know these exist or that they need to be in those. And then we have a link to the SAT and ACT website, because we don't want them to have any excuse for not moving forward, like they're waiting to hear from something from the school. We want to drill into these student athletes and the families, hey, this is your responsibility. That's your kid, parent. And for the kid, we want to get them in the idea of starting to look for things. And this will go with them through life. When they're looking for a job, they'll start doing research now because they've learned how to do it here. Okay, so we're going to take our parent cap off now, and now we're going to put our administrator and our coach cap on, and I'm going to show you what that looks like. So over here is what we call the coaches portal, and I call it the coaches portal, but the principal can be on here. We want your counselors on here. We want the athletic director using this. Everybody should be using this side of it. And so as soon as you come in here, you can start seeing all of the athletes in your program on a list in here under your player profile. And if you're the basketball coach, you can just go in there and select just to see your kids. If you're the counselor, you want to see everybody, and the principal, you want to see everybody, but the baseball coach and the football coach, they can just concentrate on their kids. And so one thing I see here for Charles, who was the student we were just working with, is he's got 2 athletic schools and 2 academic schools. And if I saw this as a counselor, I'm going to come over here and take a look. And so now I can see academically he's got 2 schools here, one in Arizona, one in California. I can now call Charles into my office, and Charles has never visited my office. That's 90% of the kids on campus. And I can say, hey, look, I took a look here. I see that you're interested in these 2 schools. Let's take a look. Let's start talking about writing your essay and looking at your application and all that, and get you ready to make sure you can go there. And it's great to know that you're in the top 25 percentile. So this is a really good fit. So let's start getting ready to get you there. But if I'm the basketball coach, I can see also that they picked the school for basketball. And I can see they did Division II, which I told them I feel comfortable with. So as that basketball coach, I can click this button, and now I've got that head coach's phone number and email right in front of me. So now I can make a phone call, and I can say, hey, Coach Fano, this is Coach Charles from USA High School. I've got a family who's really interested in their son attending your school, and academically, he's absolutely qualified. In fact, he's in the top 25 percentile of kids that got into your school the previous year. And basketball-wise, this kid can play, and I can vouch for this kid. They can definitely play at this level. And so would it be okay if I sent you a profile of this kid and some notes that I made about the kid, and you take a look? There's some video there for them also. But this coach, especially at D2, D3, NAIA level, they would have never heard of that kid. So it's a win for that coach. It's a win for the high school coach. It's a win for the counseling people. So what we're trying to do is make sure everybody that uses the system, something positive comes out for them. And then in this, the coach would go ahead and send out the profile, and that college coach could have been at the grocery store on their phone, and they could now look at some video. And if they're not interested, they'll get back to that high school coach, and they'll say, well, we're not really looking for that right now, but we are looking for a forward. If you have somebody else doing that, or this other position, or in the future, keep us in mind. And so the high school coach can let the parents know. They can take that school off their list and go back and get another school. And we keep doing this over and over again. And so the same thing holds for the coaches and athletic directors. We have videos for you guys to learn how to use the system. It's very quick and easy. We've got the same links here for the eligibility centers and for the SAT, ACT, so you can let all of your players know what's coming on, and we teach you how to use the system. So all this is good and well, and it looks marvelous. And the first question we always get, well, how much does this cost? And I came from a bureaucracy, so the number one thing I wanted to do when I developed this was I did not want to have to wait to get approved to be on a purchase list for a bureaucracy. And I understand this is a good to have. It's not a must have for a lot of the schools. That's one of the things we were running into. So how does it all work? Here's how it works. Every single school that signs up with us gets 5 of these areas for logos to find sponsors. And most of the high schools already have sponsors, so this isn't that hard of a reach for them. And so when you get a sponsor, and we have a set amount, and I won't give that because this could live forever and the price may change, but once you get a sponsor, we split that with you 50-50. So you get the software and you get a complete site license. Every single student athlete in your program can use the software. So there's no problem there. And this is a way for you to also bring money into your program, and this is a way for us to make our money without having to get onto your purchasing list. And so all we ask is that you try to offer it to all of your sports, to all of your athletes on campus, and we move forward on that. And we also have a third-party partner that can help you guys if you can't find sponsors or you're having trouble. But really what I want is for you guys to get local sponsors, because once you get that, you start building a community, and I'll talk about that a little bit more in a moment. And so hopefully I've gone over this, and I don't mind going over it again, and I'll give you guys some more insight on it if you have some specific questions. But I'm going to come back now to the webinar, to the slides, and try to keep moving there. And so now let's go over the strategy. So I've done all of this. I've kind of gone through it. I've told you where your competitors are. I've told you what the challenges are in a lot of different ways, and you guys are already aware of most of it. The only thing I was really concerned about is the ones that you don't see that are coming after you guys. And you also are very aware of what happens every time there is a crisis. I know they don't happen that often, but you guys are slipping, and you can feel it, but you can't put your finger on why it's happening, and I hope I shed some light on that. So what do we do about it? And this is from what I did when I was with the city, and we were trying to solve this same problem. The first thing you have to do is control the narrative. And what I mean by that is you guys right now are stuck because no matter what you do, the people that are the education ideologues, the first thing they will say is you're not part of the core curriculum. You guys, I'm sure you guys have heard that before, and you can argue till the day is done that you really are a part of it, but it doesn't matter. But if somebody were to ask you what's the purpose of school, they'd likely say to get an education. But if you ask them what is the purpose of high school, you'll receive a variety of different answers. Education is one. Get prepared for college. Get ready for what comes next after high school. So you can never overcome the core curriculum argument that education insiders use to separate athletics from the quote-unquote real purpose of school. But you can use it to prepare and position students for the future to reframe the conversation. If every high school athletic department began using this terminology to discuss their efforts on behalf of their student athletes, over time it'll take hold. And it can be argued that education fits neatly inside the prepare and position ideology. So that's reframing everything, because that's really what the high school is all about, is getting these kids prepared and getting them in position for what they're going to do when they walk out that gate and they can't come back in. Next, you have fortify and expand. And this is where everybody gets a little tricky, especially because we're in the middle of a crisis right now, and you guys know what's coming. But you guys have to make your best effort not to give ground this time. And this is where the software comes in, because now you have something. You're going to have to go to your parents and ask them for more. It's just the way it is. You're going to have to ask for more from your booster club. You're going to have to ask more from everybody. So the parents have to come out and do more fundraising for you guys, and you're going to be asking and asking and asking. And at some point, everybody's like, well, what are you giving? And so with this software, when you come in and you say, listen, things are going to be hard. We don't want to retrench. We don't want to reduce. We want to maintain where we are at the very least. But this is what we're going to bring in. We're bringing this software in because we want to be a part of what's going to get these kids ready for what they're going to do next. And so the software fits in almost perfectly for what's about to happen to you guys right now. And then I want to push the idea, and this is what we did at my job, that you actually try to expand your reach. And this sounds almost crazy at this point in time, but there's ways to do it. Every single high school campus should get into esports. It's the easiest thing for you to get into, especially if you have a technology department on campus. If you have a technology department on campus, you guys partner together, but try to bring it under the athletic umbrella. And you guys can probably split some of the costs on this because you'll both be involved in it, but you start creating an esports in the esports world. Even if on campus you don't have the infrastructure put in place, there are buildings popping up everywhere that they've built out just for esports competitions, then you guys can easily work with those guys. So this is a little bit of out-of-the-box thinking. And I talked earlier about the live streaming. You guys can do that. You can do it in FHS if you want to, but there are some private companies that can't wait to get into this business either, because once you get that going, imagine your freshman kids are playing at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, their parents are at work, they could actually watch it. Well, I guess they shouldn't be watching it at work, but they could conceivably watch it on their break and watch their kids participate. And so everybody gets to be involved in that. And you either have a technology department on campus again, or maybe you have an AV club or group there. Start working with them. Again, we're blurring those lines between the athletic department and the other departments on the campus so that there's a web. It's a very tight-knit web. And then the biggest piece on this, and we do a lot of consulting on this, we want to take PE classes to the next level, because that's where they're trying to separate you guys. So, of course, for the first 2 years, you have to take PE. But after that, you kind of lose a lot of those kids. There are 8 million kids playing high school sports in a competitive nature. There's another 8 million that aren't. And so we want to get as many kids as possible doing something with the athletic department. So what have you started after they've done their first 2 years? You start offering them skills, sports skills, specific skills, such as archery or badminton, or, you know, and like I said earlier, we're working with the triathlon group or the tennis stuff. They'll send experts to you if you don't have them on campus, because they want to grow their membership. Now, these kids aren't going to be the best of the best necessarily, but they may stay in that world for the rest of their lives and get really interested in it, and they learned it at their high school. And you also kept them in your sport under the athletic department. So these are just ideas that I'm throwing out, because the number one thing when budget cuts come into mind is cut our offerings, reduce. You want to go the other direction. And then finally, for a couple of the schools, we're talking to them about doing intramural sports. That's what they do at colleges right now. Everyone could not make the team. A lot of kids try it out. But one of the reasons they don't make a team is because they don't understand how to play the correct way. If you let those kids play in an intramural capacity, maybe you can teach them and maybe they can make the team the next year. But even if not, at least they learn how to play the game the right way. Maybe they can practice against your team. And so you want to keep that going, because you always have an off season, and this will be, and you have that expertise already on campus. And so this again, we're just meshing things up. We're just trying to think outside of the box a little bit, and to make it so that you get as many kids on campus involved in athletic department activities. And then finally, we want you to build your own fan club, and this is one of the hardest pieces of this. We did a lot of this at my previous job. The software is an opportunity for you to interact with the parents, the counselors, the teachers, the boosters, community leaders, and even local businesses. But where everyone messed up when I sort of took this idea to the other departments, people started bragging about what they were doing, and you can't do that. It has to be very, very low key. You just do it because you want to do it. And what happens is, as time goes by, those people go to meetings. Imagine a parent or a business leader going to a meeting with the politicians or the school board who's asking them for help, and they say, well, you know what, your athletic department's really doing some great stuff here. I hope you guys keep them funded and keep their budget solid, because I like what they're doing, not just for the community, but for everybody involved. And that's what you want to happen. And then the other thing that's super important here, it has to come from the heart. So I would love for everybody to use our software. It's there for you guys. That's available at any time you want to move forward on it. But don't do the strategy if you're going to do it just to position yourself so that you don't lose out when the next crisis comes on. Because people can feel that. It feels inauthentic to them, and they won't be singing your praises. They won't be your fans. They'll just get out of it what they can get out of it, and that's it. Now, I'm 999% sure that I'm right on everything that I just laid out for you guys. But even if I'm wrong, you will know that in the next 8 to 10 years, before the next inevitable crisis happens, that you guys have helped so many kids go through your program, move forward, and they'll come back and they'll remember you guys too and what you did for them. And when you tie all of that stuff together, that's really what high school sports is all about. That's why I started this whole project and program, because I want you guys to succeed. Because again, our whole goal at our company is that inclusiveness. We want every single kid that wants to play, that wants to compete, that wants to be a part of youth sports gets an opportunity to do it, and the high school athletic department is for the 13 to 17-year-olds. You guys are it. You guys are the bottom line for this. So that is an overview of what we have. I want to thank you guys for your time. This webinar had a really ambitious goal, and I went pretty fast there because I wanted to be conscious of your time. And I hope I was able to fulfill some of it for you. And at the very least, I hope I've given you some things to at least think about. Best of luck to all of you guys. I really look forward to working with anybody that wants to work with us. I'll make sure everything happens for you, and we get it in place for you before the beginning of the school year. And we will be doing an update in July, and we'll be ready August 1st. All the coaches, the schools, the sports will all be rock solid and ready to go for you guys. And it's something for you guys. If you remember, when you walk into a room, and I'm going to guarantee you this is what's going to happen. You guys are going to go to a meeting, and they're going to say, okay, here's how it's going to lay out. Here's the cuts we're going to take. Here's the cuts you're going to take. Does anybody here have any ideas? You have an idea now. You have to have something to offer. Otherwise, they just take. So you want to have something in your back pocket that you can say, you know what? We were looking at this. We want to move forward. We want to expand what we're doing, not reduce if possible. And I think this will make a big difference and help you guys out. Okay, you guys, again, thank you. And that's the end of my presentation. Wesley?
All right. Thanks very much, Charles. I thought that was a great presentation. I think you can take a deep breath, to have a sip of water right now and say you've earned it at this point. But at this point in time, I'd like to open it up to questions. To submit a question, please type it into the chat box in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. So while some of those are loading up here, we'll start with the first one. I feel like you've touched on this briefly when you were sharing your screen. But can the software be used for the general student population, non-athletes, whether they're looking for, maybe to major in art or some other form, extracurricular activity? Can this be utilized at all?
Yeah, we get that question a lot. One of the things I try to tell everybody, we designed our algorithm and we designed this for the athlete in mind. So when you saw that GPA and SAT and those combinations, I'm using the NCAA guidelines a lot and the NAIA guidelines to make sure. And don't forget, when you do your search, we're only showing you schools you qualify for. So if someone's just using this as general, they can do it, but it is really geared towards, we want to be the best at what we do. And so we're for the athletic program on the high school. So yes, anybody can use it, but they won't get all of the options and opportunities they were looking for if they're just going as a general student. They will get the ones that have athletic opportunities. And so we want to make sure that people are aware of that. We consider ourselves an and company. So whatever else you have out there, some people have Naviance and Avid. We've been on a lot of campuses. We are adding to that. So yes, you can use it is the answer, but we don't recommend you use it be the only thing on campus.
All right, here, and this seems like a little bit more of a dark-themed question here, but what happens if an athlete believes they are a college-level talent, but I, as a coach, don't agree?
Yeah, and we got that a lot. So we really try to balance the software. So one of the things to think of as a coach is you do not have to make that phone call for that kid. But what you want to do is invite every single athlete on there so you're not showing favoritism just from the best athletes. So on the parent side, and I didn't have time to show that, they can actually send out their own profiles to coaches. We don't recommend it, but we show them how to do it. And it goes the other way for the parent because sometimes coaches just don't want to do it. There's always a coach on the campus that just is not into this. They don't have time for it. So we don't want them to get hurt either. So that student athlete and their family can send out, if they think they're D1 and you think they're D3, they can send out their own profile. It will not attach to your school, and it doesn't attach to the AthleticSOS either. So they can send that out. It won't go well for them most of the time, but we don't want to take that away. So you do have the option of saying, hey, I told you, in my opinion, you're not at that level, so I don't feel comfortable sending that out. Because for the high school coach, and I talked to a ton of college coaches, you guys have the highest level of credibility with college coaches. It's unbelievable to me. And so you don't want to ruin that because you got kids coming in every single year. A new set of kids are coming in. So you don't want to blow your credibility and your reputation trying to help a kid out. And that's what the college coaches know. They know you're not going to mess yourself up because you've got another set of kids coming all the time. So that's the way you would handle that. And the software is aware of that possibility.
All right, another user question we have here. Other than logos, what are some other sponsor benefits?
So here's what we did on, you can do it a couple of different ways. So the logo can be there, and it also could be a click-through, which to us makes it an advertising, and we tell you should ask for more if you want to do that as a sponsor. But the way we did it at a couple of our schools is they gave the banner, the field banner, right? You put the banner in the gym or on the field. They got a spot in the annual yearbook, and then they got the software. Congratulations there. And then they gave them a little trophy or a little something to say thank you for it. And that seemed to do it for the, especially for the local businesses. They were really excited about it. But what this also does for you is you can go to bigger companies now, because we've just tied academics, athletics, and technology together. And for some reason, that really appeals to a lot of the bigger companies. They want to get involved in that. And you're also showing these kids you're all a part of what they're going to do when they leave out of there. People just get thrilled about this. It's been a real boon for us. So there are a lot of opportunities for you, and we'd be glad to go over those with you.
And staying on that topic of sponsors from an administrator point of view, what were to happen if we as an administrators were unable to find sponsors? Will you cut us off from the software?
Yeah, we've never, ever done that. What we're looking for more than anything is effort. Remember, it benefits us too. The more people we have in our system, the more robust the system is, the better we get. So only one time have I ever had to lock someone out, and that coach was actually, I shouldn't even say what they were doing, but they were doing some things that they shouldn't have been doing, letting people in the system that weren't even part of their school and charge. It was just a mess. And we locked them out, and then the principal from the school gave us a call because the parents started complaining. What happened? How come we can't use it? And we didn't lock the parents out, the parents for the next year. So we let whoever's in the system gets to continue. We never punish the student athlete, but they couldn't add the next year's athletes in. And so the principal called, and we got everything straightened out, and they are back in line. That school is back in line. So that we've never, ever cut anyone off. We just want the effort, and we want to stay in business too. We're not a nonprofit. We are for profit, but we think we found the best way for it to be a win-win for both parties.
All right, fantastic. And we're going to be wrapping up our Q&A in just a few minutes here, so we have time for just about one or two more questions. If we haven't gotten to yours yet, as we mentioned at the top of the hour here, Charles will reach out to your answer and answer those questions after we're all through here today. But a couple more questions here. Does every sport on campus need to participate?
No, they do not. And so we do have, and that's what we're pushing for, but it very seldom happens. In fact, we usually get football, basketball, softball, baseball, but they do not. We can get you started, but what will happen, I'll tell you this, once you start doing it, the parents start talking to each other, and the other sports will start coming on board. So you can start with just one sport on your campus if you want to. There's no problem with that, and we'll work with you guys to get set up, and we'll give you the same attention as we give someone with 15 sports.
All right, that's fantastic. And our final question here, what are the steps to get started? You know, if we come out of here, I'm ready to go, and I want to get started here with AthleticSOS, what do I have to do?
So you guys can contact me. You see my email contact there, and then we'll get you started. I'll have anybody that's on this call will be up and running by next week. One thing I will need from you guys, I'll need a contact person for your campus, a phone number, email, a contact person, and then we'll go from there. We're going to need a list of all your coaches, any counselors that you want to be a part of this, and then we'll walk you through how to start sending out your invitations, and it just sort of runs on its own. It's very, very easy to get up and get running and get started. It's just the effort on your part to move forward with it. That's all you'll need to do. So even if you're not sure if you're going to use it, I would appreciate it if you guys would just let us go ahead and get you set up, and then in August, September, when school starts, you can decide, do I want to move forward with this? Do we want to hold on? It's going to be completely up to you, but at least you'll be ready to go.
All right, Charles, that's all great stuff here, and that is all the time that we have for today. So thank you again to our wonderful presenter, and for all who participated today. As we already mentioned, this webinar will be available on demand very soon, so you'll receive a notification via email once it's available, and keep an eye out for future webinars from Coach and Athletic Director via our email list and social media platforms. Thank you very much, folks, and enjoy the rest of your evening.